Good morning, 13s and 14s. I'm calling you that instead of 8th graders because in the Giver, as you found, they often call students by their ages as opposed to by a grade level. So actually, they probably wouldn't have a 13s and 14s because age doesn't matter after this point, as you've seen. So you would have actually been assigned a job at the age of 12, and you would still be going to school, but you would be gearing your training more towards what you needed to do for your job. So you wouldn't see your normal groupings or your normal friends. You would be grouped with other students who are in training for that same job. So today we are going to be reading chapters 9 and 10, and you're going to get to actually see what Jonas's assignment means. So he was not assigned, as you learned, he was selected, which suggests that he was a person of great respect and importance and honor in the society. So he is the receiver of memory, and we do not really know what that means yet, and that's okay. Lois Lowry is going to gradually kind of show us what that means to be a receiver of memory. So today in chapter 9, you're going to see that when he gets home, he has a book of rules that he has to follow. And whereas most students' folders are really thick and contain a lot of instructions and directions, his is very thin. It's just a single piece of paper with some cryptic rules on it. So you're going to read those today and see what his rules are. And then you're actually going to get to see him go to his first day of training and see what that's about. And it's still going to be a little bit mysterious, just so you know. It's not going to be crystal clear by the time you get to the end of chapter 10. There's going to be a little learning curve here with what it means for him to be a receiver of memory, but you'll get a better idea of what's happening. You're also going to see other things that are different in Jonas's society that are not the same as ours. And some of them may surprise you, and you might be thinking to yourself, how did they do that? So you might have remembered that I told you this is actually a futuristic society, and maybe when you're reading it, you've thought it seems more like a past society. It seems like it's not as advanced. But when you start to think about the things that they can or cannot control or do, you will start to understand why they must have a great deal of technology and science and ability and intelligence in order to have created a society like this. So today's activity, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the first one, but the second activity I want to talk about quite a bit. If it's a multiple choice question, you're going to put your answer out here in this little column that I've created. So for example, number 2, you're going to pick which one and you're just going to put your letter out here in this column. So if you messed that up the other day, it's okay, but that's where you want to put your answer. If it requires a short answer, like a sentence or two, you want to still use complete sentences. So I am not having you do any essay writing or paragraph writing as we've been on this online learning adventure. So I want you at the very least to be writing complete sentences. I need to make sure that you can do that easily and correctly before you get to Mrs. Allen's class in 9th grade. And as always, do your own work. Do not cheat. I've seen a big improvement with assignments, and I've seen more of your own work, something that you could take pride in. And if you have questions, ask me. I am here for you. I'm here to help you. You have lots of ways you can get in touch with me. Just remember that. Okay, these are chapter 9 questions. There's just a few because there's another activity I want you to do. In chapter 10, I try to keep the questions short, try to keep them mostly multiple choice for you, because the main thing that I want you to work on is this book of rules activity. And it's not hard. It's easy. It just requires you to be a little bit creative and imaginative. So we're going to work on our creativity today. So recently, you're going to do this today. You're going to read Jonas's book of rules, and he has to follow those rules as receiver. But you did not get to see Asher's book of rules or Fiona's book of rules or father or mother or anybody else for that matter. So what you're going to do is you are going to pick a character from the book and create a book of rules for their assignment. Now, before I go on to the next step B here, your possibilities are these. If you want to do a different job, that is fine. But just make sure that you feel confident you can come up with enough rules for that job. So for example, Inger was given the job of birth mother in the book. Pierre was given the job of rehabilitation director. So if you want to try one like that you heard in chapter 7 or chapter 8, there was one that was given a fish hatchery attendant job. If you want to try that, that's fine with me. I think that these are probably the easiest ones to do, but I am all for having a challenge or a risk or taking that on if you want to try it. So once you pick the character, you're going to put their name here where this blank is. This is Blank's book of rules. I've already put the apostrophe S to show it's possessive, so you just need to put their name in here. Something else I wanted to talk about, even though you're not doing his, I wanted to point out Jonas's book of rules. So some of you have been spelling this incorrectly. If a name ends in S, like Jonas's, you still put apostrophe S after if it's possessive. So if it's showing ownership, it's his. If you put that pronoun in there, his book of rules, or her book of rules if it was a female. So you want S apostrophe S. Some of you have been dropping this S right here and you don't want to do that. So don't drop this S. It's not Jonah's. Okay, we don't want to change his name. Jonas is. All right, B, be sure the rules that you make fit in with their society. For example, don't tell them they have to drive a car to work because, as you've probably seen, they mostly ride bikes. And as some of you picked up on, this might be to decrease accidents and tragedies and accidents. It might be to decrease air pollution. Those are some possible reasons they might do that. Okay, you are not, keyword here, not allowed to use any of the same roles that Jonas was given. So none of those should be duplicates. You need to come up with your own roles for these jobs. You must use complete sentences as usual. And you also want to make sure that you have 10 total roles. And there's a chart so you don't forget, so I put 10 on here. Now, if you notice Jonas's book of rules, when you go to read it, you'll see this today. A lot of them are kind of like a command. So you can use a command if you want. That counts as a complete sentence still. So you need to have a verb at the beginning, a period at the end. Okay. You also see some of their complete sentences too, like you are not permitted to apply for release, etc. There are a couple on here. So those start with you. So you could start with you, or you could start with a verb and action word as a command. Okay, so you can choose either way to do that, or a combination of those. So just a couple other things. If you are a father, you're a nurturer, you're in charge of taking care of new children from the time they are born until the time they are assigned at the ceremony of one to a new family. So if you were thinking that you were father, when you went to work, what would it entail for you to take care of new children? So what rules would be in place? What duties would you have? What responsibilities would you have as that nurturer? So try to put yourself in that person's shoes and think about it from that perspective. Okay? If you're not sure what assistant director of recreation means, you might want to skip that. But basically, recreation is activities that are fun for families or for students or for adults only. So they would be in charge of developing fun activities for the community. Department of Justice employee, she is like a judge, if that helps, if you didn't pick up on that already. And caretaker of the old, so Fiona works basically in what we would call a nursing home. They call it the House of Old. It's not exactly the same thing, but it's pretty close to a nursing home. So think about, what would she have to do in order to properly care for the elderly there at the House of the Old? So you want to think about that. What rules would they have to follow? What precautions, what safeties would they have to follow, etc. So there's not one single correct answer. There are many correct answers, as long as you try to put yourself in that person's shoes and think about what they would have to do throughout their day. Okay, I am excited to read your book of rules. And at the bottom too, if you have questions for me, you can put them here. If they are urgent, you need me to answer them right away, please get a hold of me via email, Google Meet, Student Square, something like that. All right, enjoy chapters 9 and 10 and have a great day, everybody.